Stocks, bonds, ETFs, straight out of downtown Chicago. This is Zacks Market Edge.
Welcome to Zacks Market Edge, the podcast about investing in your life. I'm your host, Tracey Ryniec, and this week I'm going solo to talk about Bitcoin. Yes, can you believe it? Bitcoin and gold. Should you be buying one or the other or neither right now here in 2025? Both are hitting new highs, and so I thought it'd be an interesting time to compare the two. Also, I went to some graduations and barbecues on Memorial Day weekend and had my normal chats with various investors here in the Chicagoland area about what they thought was going on in the stock market and with some of these other asset classes like Bitcoin and gold. And we actually also discussed real estate. That was a big topic here in Chicago, as our real estate market is actually one of the best it's been in decades. So that was high on the topic list. But stripping out real estate, I did want to focus on Bitcoin and gold because I was curious about what just these kind of normal investors I was encountering all weekend were thinking about both because they are hitting new all-time highs. Is there some kind of bubble in Bitcoin or gold, or both or neither? And does that impact whether or not you should be buying them here? So I wanted to look at the ETFs. So we finally have a Bitcoin ETF, the Bitcoin Trust, ticker IBIT, to compare it to the Gold Trust, I guess you can call it, Gold ETF, ticker GLD. It's not GOLD. That's a mining stock, but it is GLD, and that's the one that goes way back to about 20 years ago is when that one launched. So we don't have years and years of comparison on the two because the Bitcoin ETF only launched last year in 2024. But it's been around a while now, so it gives us some data we can look at to look at the comparison between the two. Now, both Bitcoin and gold are considered alternative assets. And it used to be that financial advisors would tell investors to have a little bit of their money in gold, 5% or less as a hedge. And in recent years, some financial advisors have been saying the same thing about Bitcoin, 5% or less in that. But now they're both hitting new highs. So what is the sentiment out there? So just a little side anecdotal note. I didn't get much sentiment at all when I was out at my barbecues / graduations this weekend. People wanted to talk more about stocks than they wanted to talk about either Bitcoin or gold. And I was surprised by that. I actually had to ask one person directly, do you own Bitcoin? And then he said no. And I said, are you thinking about buying it here, even though it's at the highs? And he said no, because it's at the highs. So I didn't ask him about gold, but someone else later at the barbecue did ask me about gold and not about Bitcoin. So, and that's a person who I know has owned the Dogecoin and some of the other cryptocurrencies in the past. So it's all anecdotal, but interesting to me to see what is happening with these alternatives, because usually investors like to pile in when something is at the highs. Fear of missing out is strong and powerful. And with these, it's been multi-year breakouts, although Bitcoin was kind of stagnant there for a little while and now finally is hitting these new highs. So just some color on where we stand. Bitcoin all-time high was 111,970. The gold all-time highs, I believe, was just over 3,500. It might have been like 3,505 or something in there, that range. Currently, as I'm recording this on May 27th, Bitcoin is trading near that high again at 110,319, and gold is at 3,302. So a little bit off of its all-time highs, but not much. Anything over 3,000 is very bullish on gold. It only broke out over that recently. And so it's holding that 3,000 level pretty good here. And if you're a gold investor, that is what you want to see. So what do these two look like, comparatively? I get a lot of grief on X from the Bitcoin supporters that Bitcoin, with its new breakout is the way to go and it's the better performer. But I think people might be surprised with year-to-date performance. I also threw in the Vanguard S&P 500 chart on this chart I'm about to show you. That's the ticker VOO, which someone did also mention to me over the barbecue weekend as just like, should I be buying the VOO? So I threw it in as a comparison here. It isn't doing as well year to date as some of these alternatives to stocks are doing, but still interesting that there is still some bullishness about it, even after, the big downturn earlier this year. And now it is rebounded and is relatively flat year to date. But let's take a look at that chart. I brought it up on Zacks.com here, and you'll see a little bit better. So the gold is in the red. This is year to date. The Bitcoin is in that purple color. That's the IBIT. And then S&P 500, Vanguard, Fund, VOO, V as in Victor, OO is the ticker. And this is in real time while we're recording this. So the gold GLD is up 24% now year to date, but it is off of those recent highs. And you can see on this chart, it did bust out and hit those recent highs in early May. And then back in April, it was also testing those late April, but it's still hanging out above 3,000, as I mentioned. And so the GLD is actually trading around $304. Its all-time high is at 317. And then the Bitcoin is up 13.35% right now compared to the GLD, up 24. So it's trailing a bit, but has broken out and is trying to have a big rally here, because it's well off those lows of early April. And then the VOO also well off its early April lows, Liberation Day lows, and it's now up only 1% year to date. So no one should be surprised about that, but big turnaround there. Can we get a breakout in VOO here? New all-time highs in the S&P 500. Some people are predicting it coming soon, but we will see. So this is just on a short-term basis. We are at late May, so almost 6 months really, and gold is outperforming. But I know all you Bitcoiners out there are like, show a longer chart, Tracey. So I'm switching it to the year because the Bitcoin ETF has existed going back, further now. And the year-long chart here, we have the IBIT up 61% now on this recent surge. And this is where you can really see the volatility in Bitcoin. Late last year, much lower, kind of just trading in that narrow range. Then we had a breakout at the end of the year and lost a lot of it to start the year. Now we're breaking out again. So you got to have a strong stomach if you're in the IBIT. It's kind of buy it and forget it kind of thing. But now up 61%, gold, more consistent, what you would see, just kind of consistent gains, now kind of moving sideways a bit here after we hit these new all-time highs, but up 39.46% in that 1 year time period. And then the VOO trying to get to the new breakout. And after that breakdown here in 2025, up 11.5%. And that might sound like nothing, like, 11.5%, how lame. I'm going to be in gold or IBIT for these big gains. But that is around the historical average for the S&P 500. Usually it's calendar year, but 10, 11, 12% is around the average. So we are kind of seeing that here, but we'll see if we get further breakout. Now, I am going to show the 5-year even though, as you can see now showing the 5-year, the Bitcoin ETF just doesn't go back that far because it launched in 2024 there. But you can see gold and the S&P 500 ETFs definitely go back, and VOO up 94% in the 5-year stack now, and then gold up 86.7%. So almost tracking the VOO there over the 5-year period. That shows just what kind of a rally we've had in gold, because look at the red line going back in 2021, 2022, even most of 2023 was pretty much stagnant for gold. It didn't really go anywhere during the pandemic. Meanwhile, the S&P 500 had that big rally into 2021, sold off in 2022, and then has been roaring back to its new all-time highs. And then we just had the Bitcoin, which launched last year in 2024, and seen really spectacular gains. Now, where is all the money kind of going into? It is going into both gold and Bitcoin here, and even the VOO. It's still attracting assets, even with the sell-off here in 2025. And even based on someone just asking me about it at a barbecue this weekend in Chicago. So all three are gaining from investors, but we have about 100 billion now in the GLD ETF. We have 56.5 billion in Bitcoin. So it is still a lot smaller than the GLD, but that is an incredible number for the Bitcoin ETF because it only launched last year, and 56 billion has already been, sent that way and buying the Bitcoin ETF. And it's taken, like I said, almost 20 years now for the GLD to get to 100 billion in assets in that ETF. Just kind of curious, going back, I'm clicking on the all. So the VOO doesn't go back, I don't believe, as far as the GLD does, but it looks like it goes back to 2010 here. So just scrolling back for those, obviously the IBIT only last year. So it's just this little guy on this chart, but the VOO up 420% since November. Was it November? I'm clicking, trying to see. September, maybe 2010 is when it launched thereabouts. And then the GLD up only 137%. So over this long time period, it has been better to be in the S&P 500. Just buy the stocks, and you have gained since September 2010. So that's a little bit over 15 years now, 420%. And none of this is with any dividend reinvested. But remember, the IBIT and the GLD do not pay any dividends, but the VOO does. And that little 1 to 2%, depending on what year you bought it and what it was paying out, can really add up and make a big difference in compounding gains as you go along. Now, I did just kind of want to check out the gold mining ETF because I know some of you are maybe interested in getting some kind of dividend or whatnot. And wow, this is a surprise. So I just added the GDX to the all-time chart. And since it does go back all the way as far back as the VOO and the GLD, because these ETFs have also been around for about 20 years now. And the GDX is actually down in that almost 15-year period, down 10.76%. So it's really, timing is everything on the gold miners. I would say the same thing with the energy stocks, commodities in general. You have to really time it, buy them on the lows if you can, and then get in on a breakout, a bull market, And so I'm bringing up the 1-year chart now, and the GDX is almost tracking gold. Gold, again, up 39.5%. GDX ETF, which is the large cap gold miners, up 38.2%. Again, does not include a dividend yield, which it does pay. And then let's take a look at year to date, because I know those miners have been lagging, but maybe not. Better than I thought. So remember GLD up 24%. That's just gold. You own the physical gold. GDX now up 41.2%. So this would be normal. Gold breaking out to new highs. The miners are going to cash in great free cash flows with those miners. And they will be giving it back in the form of share buybacks and dividends, some specials, or just regular dividends as well, depending on what gold does. But the longer it holds here over 3,000, the more money the gold miners will make. So not surprising, some money is seeking out that extra windfall that you will get the longer that the gold price is over 3. And if we see gold over, getting closer to 4,000, then you'll really see these gold mining stocks break out. Now, IBIT doesn't really have a similar scenario, Bitcoin itself. So you're just buying the Bitcoin, but shouldn't that be enough? It's breaking out again to new all-time highs. And a lot of Bitcoin aficionados expecting, 200,000 maybe this year. That's just what I've seen on X and what they've been telling me is the next psychologically important level, 200,000 on the Bitcoin. So we'll be watching these. And so we asked the question, should you be getting in here at the all-time highs? Now, I can say with the gold miners, I've personally been buying some of those. I own 2 in my value investor portfolio. I do think as long as gold stays above 3,000, we will see continuing outperformance by the gold miners, and they are cheap here. So I do like those. I do not own any physical gold. I do not own the GLD or the Bitcoin, but I know many of you are waiting. When Tracey buys the Bitcoin ETF, that's the end of the rally, right? Because I have said I have no interest in owning Bitcoin. I have owned the GLD in the past a couple of times in my own personal portfolio, going way back 20 years ago. I've been a buyer and seller of it. So I am a bigger believer in gold and this bull market in the gold, but both are outperforming right here. So having a little bit of exposure to gold or Bitcoin might not be a bad thing, but I do buy into what the financial advisors have said and believe you should have a diverse portfolio with just a small bit of exposure to some of these things because they are very volatile, as we've seen with the Bitcoin. So it's easy now to buy any of these. You can own physical gold without buying the bars, but those are available at Costco, apparently. So if you want to own the physical, that's available, but just buy the ETF, ticker GLD for gold. Then Bitcoin, it's available now. Buy the ETF, buy IB as in boy, IT. IBIT is the ticker there. Then if you just want to buy the S&P 500, many ways to do it. The one I'm showing you on the screen is the Vanguard S&P 500 ETF, VOO. It's very popular and fairly cheap to buy that. And remember, the gold miners is G as in George, D as in David, X. You can own a basket of them, so you don't have to pick any winners. There's also a junior gold miners, but I'm not sure how many of the juniors are actually around. Ticker GDXJ as in John is that ticker. And that one's been around a couple of decades as well to give you exposure to the smaller cap gold miners. But there's easy ways to buy these now. So keep them on your watch list. I know I will be. And as always, be sure to tune in for the podcasts because every week I'm going to be looking at stocks, apparently gold and Bitcoin too, as we go along, and whatever else. Maybe I need to take a look at real estate since it's the hot topic now. What's happening with those home builder stocks? Maybe I need to cover that soon. And just REITs in general. Is real estate somewhere you should be considering soon too? But be sure to subscribe to get all of our podcasts because I'm covering everything that's going on out there in the stock market and beyond. So get us on Apple. We're on Spotify. We're on Amazon Music. And of course, we're here on YouTube. Get us on our YouTube channel, Zacks Investment Research. And I'll be having some more guests coming on for the video podcast. So be sure to tune in. Be sure to subscribe. Go to zacks.com/YouTube to get our YouTube channel. And as always, I'll see you again next week with some more stocks.